Okay, sige, let's start. Module 6, so we're gonna talk about responsibility accounting. Okay lang ba dako kaayo or gamay kaayo ang fonts? Naka 160% na good ni. Klaro lang siya, mabasa ninyo?
Mabasa naman po. Objectives.
Okay. So, objectives, yan, yung objectives. Compare and contrast a centralized and a decentralized organization. I think you already know kung anong centralized organization and decentralized organization. Discuss the characteristics of the responsibility centers. There's gonna be 4 responsibility centers that we're going to talk about. Differentiate goal congruence and sub-optimization, and discuss the other key concepts in responsibility accounting. So, yan. Kasi itong sinashare ko sa inyo is the actual module that I usually send. Hindi na ako gumawa ng PowerPoint kasi theories lang naman. So, yeah. This is the actual module. So, dito tayo sa lesson proper. So, what is responsibility accounting? It is an accounting information system and a managerial control device that involves identifying responsibility centers with their corresponding objectives, developing measures of achievement of such objectives, and preparing, analyzing reports of such measures by the responsibility centers. So before we go ahead kung ano ba ang responsibility centers, first let's talk about organizational structures. So an organization may be centralized or, next page kasi ito or decentralized. Kapag centralized, the top management makes most decisions, and controls most activities of the organizational segments from the firm's central office. Kapag centralized, top management lang yung usually nasusunod. Most of the time, lahat ng decisions sa top management manggagaling. Now, the advantage of this kind of organization is that kapag ganun, halimbawa, napakalaki ng organization ninyo, your head office is in Manila, tapos may branch kayo dito sa Davao. Kapag centralized ang organization ninyo, whatever decision or whatever actions that needs to be done here in Davao should come from Manila. So, although ngayon wala namang communication barrier, kasi nga marami namang communication tools, we can actually hold a meeting on time. But the problem about this kind of organization is that there is no room for improvement sa ibang branches of organization because top management lahat yung magde-decide. Now, kung ang top management na ito comprises of only 5 people, sila lahat magde-decide ng lahat ng mga decisions, lahat ng mga activities for the organization. Kahit siguro simpleng pagbili ng tissue paper, kung bibili ba ng tissue paper, kailangan pang ang top management ang magde-decide. Now, that is not practical, especially if your organization is relatively large. Okay lang siguro ito kapag yung organization ninyo or yung business ninyo is like nasa iisang location lang talaga. Kumbaga, small businesses, yes, pwedeng mag-implement ng ganitong klaseng structure. But if the organization is malaki na, malaking corporation, hindi uubra itong centralized organization. Actually, nangyayari ito before. Usually, ito yung structures ng mga organizations before a long time ago. Pero ngayon, dahil may mga improvements, may mga developments na nga on management, hence na-born ang decentralized organization. So, the decentralized organization is, there is actually employee empowerment because top management grants subordinate managers a significant degree of autonomy and independence in and making decisions relating to their sphere of responsibility. So for example, may problema si employee with his co-employee. Halimbawa, nag-away sila. hindi niya na kailangang dumiretso sa top management. Pupunta mo na siya sa kanyang the next level of authority, yung manager na directly na nagsusupervise sa kanya. Hindi kailangan punta agad siya sa CEO. Sa decentralized organization, maraming level of authorities na sinusunod. So, decentralized organization is actually good, like nasabi ko kanina, kapag malaki na yung organization, malaki na yung business mo, tapos pag may mga branches na. Because, halimbawa, yung branch manager ng Davao can actually decide for some actions that have to be taken in the branch, in the Davao branch, at hindi niya na kailangang sabihin pa sa top management. Although, the branch manager should also make reports from time to time for the top management to review, pero not necessarily na lahat ng gagawin ng Davao branch, kailangan niya pang ipagpaalam sa top management. So, kapag ganito, there is actually employee empowerment because yun nga, may level of responsibility, may level of authority yung manager, yung subordinate manager. So, itong topics natin ngayon, mag-a-apply lang siya if the organizational structure is decentralized. This is not applicable for centralized organization. Yung mga responsibility centers na mention dito can only be achieved in a decentralized organization. So, ano ba ang responsibility centers? There are actually 4 responsibility centers. Responsibility centers is a subunit of an organization such as a department, a division, a plant, a business process, or any segment whose manager has authority over and is responsible and accountable for a specific or defined group of activities. For example, in a big corporation, may accounting department, may human resource department, may production, may marketing department. Yan yung mga responsibility centers. Now, a responsibility center can either be cost, revenue, profit, or investment center. So, isa-isahin natin. If the responsibility center is a cost center, the manager has control only over the costs. Wala siyang control sa revenue, wala siyang control sa investment. Kasi nga, cost center. It is a responsibility center where a manager has control over the incurrence of cost. So, example nito is, accounting department. Kasi sa accounting department, ang accounting department, hindi siya nag-generate ng sales. Wala siyang revenue na napapasok sa company kasi nga yung accounting department, nagko-compute lang naman yan ng mga cost, kung feasible pa ba yung company, kung nagpo-profit pa ba yung company. So yung accounting department actually is a cost center. Kumbaga, gastos yung meron sa kanila. Kasi binabayaran mo yung accountants, binabayaran mo yung accounting clerks, pero yung mga accountants na yon, yung mga clerks na yon, wala silang nagagawang strategies or ways para maka-generate ng income sa company. Binabayaran lang sila. So, they are considered cost center. Another example is the maintenance department. Kung merong maintenance department yung company ninyo, yung in charge of the repairs, yung mga sa janitorial, mga ganyan, they are cost centers. Yes, they are part of the organization, pero kumbaga gastos lang talaga yung yung parang kayang i-control ng manager because the manager cannot in any way generate income for the company. In fact, they can only incur cost in their center, none other else. So, what is an example of a revenue center? This is where the manager has control over revenues. If the center is responsible for generating income, for generating more sales for the company, that center is considered a revenue center. Example, sales department, the marketing department. The managers there, the people there are in control of how to make more income, how to reach the market, how to strategize. Yun yung mga ginagawa ng mga sales department and the marketing department. So they are considered revenue center. Now, sa profit center, the manager has control over both cost and revenues. So, ang example nito is a branch of a company, the Davao branch of a very big corporation. So, sa Davao branch, yung manager, the branch manager has control over both cost and revenues. So, depende kung magkano yung sales na ma-generate niya, magkano yung expenses na mai-incur ng Davao branch, the manager has control over it. So, profit center, maituturing yung isang branch mismo. Because a responsibility center, hindi lang naman siya pwedeng department lang or division lang or plant lang. Pwede rin maging branch mismo. And the investment center, it's when the manager has control over both cost and revenues as well as over investment in plant and equipment, receivable, inventory, and other assets. So, itong investment center, parang nasa kanya na lahat. Pwede, the manager here has control over cost center, the revenue center, and the profit center. So, tapos additional pa yung investment center. So, ang investment has something to do about your non-current assets and yeah, where do we invest our capital? Yung parang ganun. The investment center. Now, let's talk about goal congruence versus sub-optimization because there is a big difference. Ganito kasi yan. Ang nangyayari because decentralized ang organization, maraming responsibility centers. Each responsibility center merong manager. So, may sales manager, may accounting manager, branch manager, ganon. Ang tendency kasi kapag ganon, pwedeng mag-away-away yung managers. Why? Kasi yung manager ng sales department, iba yung goal niya. Ang goal ng manager ng sales department would be to generate more sales. Now, ang goal ng, halimbawa, production center. The production center is a cost center. Ang goal ng manager ng production department would be to produce more units, to produce more products for the company at the most efficient way. Kumbaga, mababa ang cost pero maraming mapoproduce. Yun ang goal ng manager ng production center. Now, pwedeng magkaroon ng goal congruence or sub-optimization sa isang decentralized organization because of this. Because the manager from the different centers have different goals in their mind. So, pwedeng may maapakan ka na department because one department wants to do this, wants to do that, at the expense of another department. So that's bad. That's one of the disadvantages of a decentralized organization. So when does goal congruence happen? It's when one purpose of a responsibility accounting system. It is a condition where employees working on their own personal interest or the interest of the responsibility center make decisions that help meet the overall goals of the firm. So, ang nangyayari dito, Department 1, Department 2, Department 3. Itong tatlo may sari-sariling managers, may sari-sariling employees under them. Kapag lahat ng mga employees and lahat ng managers ng tatlong department na yan, kumbaga nagkaisa para ma-meet nila yung mga goals nila, mga goals ng department mismo and the goal of the firm itself, the whole company itself, that's when goal congruence happen. So, ito yung maganda, ito yung positive effect ng decentralized organization. Kapag nagtutulungan-tulungan lahat, tapos na-meet yung goal ng the responsibility center mismo and na-meet yung overall goal of the firm, goal congruence yung nangyayari sa organization ninyo. Pero kapag nag-aaway-away, tawag nito, kumbaga parang may race, parang may competition, kumbaga gusto ng Department 1 na mas maganda yung tingin sa kanila ng top management, tapos parang sinisiraan niya yung Department 2 and Department 3, ang nangyayari is sub-optimization. It occurs when one organizational segment takes action that is in its own best interest but is detrimental to the organization as a whole. Now, although na-meet ng Department 1 yung goals niya, but because of the actions that the Department 1 implemented, maybe yung Department 2 and Department 3 hindi naging at their best, yung nangyayari, yung buong organization ang naaapektuhan. So, sub-optimization ang nangyayari. So, itong sub-optimization, this is the negative part of being in a decentralized organization. Nagsasapawan, nag-uunahan, yung kumbaga, they are concerned with their department only. Wala na silang pakialam kung konti ba yung production, kung konti ba yung sales, basta yung sa maintenance department, halimbawa sa maintenance department, basta like, for example, gusto ng maintenance department na bumili ng very high-tech equipments para mas mabilis yung paglinis ng mga lobbies, ng mga offices. Gusto nilang ganun. Pero walang funds for that. So yung maaapektuhan is ang investment center. Because walang fund ang investment center, tapos yun yung gusto ng cost center, which is the maintenance department, mag-procure ng mga materials na mahal, kasi gusto nila na maganda yung performance nila. They actually doing actions that is detrimental to the organization as a whole. So, yun, yung goal congruence versus sub-optimization. Again, goal congruence, ito yung positive. Sub-optimization, ito yung negative. So, what are other key concepts in responsibility accounting? Authority, responsibility, accountability, controllability, management by objectives. So, theories lang naman yan. Ito yung other key concepts or other roles na ginagampanan ng mga managers in a responsibility accounting system. So, let's have an example dito sa responsibility centers, itong apat na to. Again, there are 4 responsibility centers: cost center, revenue center, profit, and investment. Kapag cost, gastos lang yung may control ang manager. Kapag revenue naman, may control over sales, over revenues. Pag profit, both cost and revenue. Kapag investment, both cost and revenue, so parang profit na rin yun, and over-investment in assets, plant and equipment, receivable, inventory, and other assets. So keep that in mind, cost center, revenue, profit, and investment. We're gonna have an example here sa baba. So, basahin nyo na lang, ang dali lang. Yan, para sa isang, lang. So, example, on January 1, 2019, Twilight Incorporated implemented their, take note, decentralized organization led by Carlisle Cullen. Carlisle is in charge of hiring managers to run 4 different centers. So, mag-hire daw si Carlisle ng 4 managers for the 4 different centers ng kanilang decentralized organization. Alice will be tracking Twilight customer base and exploring marketing strategies to drive more customer traffic. Rosalie will be analyzing the company's capital and researching strategies to help the company grow. Emmett will be focusing on minimizing the company's expenses, while Jasper will be in direct contact with Alice and Emmett and exploring ideas to increase the company's bottom line. For each of the 4 managers Carlisle Cullen has hired, determine which center they manage. So, sasagutan nyo sino ang manager ng cost center. You have to determine kung Yung kay Alice, Rosalie, Jasper, or Emmet is a cost center, revenue center, profit, or investment. I'll give you time to read again our example. Alright, do you have, ano na? Do you have answers? Who's in charge of the cost center?
Emmet, ma'am.
Emmet. Try natin muna ha. Lagay natin siya. Revenue center.
Alice.
Alice. Profit.
Rosalie.
Rosalie. Who's in charge of the investment?
Jasper.
Jasper. Alright. So, who begs to disagree? May ano ba? Objections? Or ito na talaga yung answer? Guys? You all have the same answers? Nel. Nakauli na ka, Nel?
Ay, mga bago lang kaabot.
Okay.
Minaw na lang ko.
How about you, Clyde? Do you have the same answers? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Same.
Same?
Yes.
So, ito na talaga yon. Actually, may tama and may mali. So, let us review. Si Emmet, let's look at Emmet. Emmet will be focusing on minimizing the company's expenses. So, tama yon. This is
Mura
correct.
nagpalitan si Alice ug si Rosalie. Libog.
Let's review natin mamaya. Tama ito. The cost center is Emmet. Siya yung manager. Kasi, yung focus niya is to minimize the company's expenses. So, cost center yan. Now, si Alice, let's look at Alice. Alice will be tracking Twilight customer base and exploring marketing strategies to drive more customer traffic. That's actually correct. Si Alice, siya yung in charge for the revenue center. Now, let's look at Rosalie. Rosalie will be analyzing the company's capital and researching strategies to help the company grow. This is actually the investment.
Yes.
The investment center because it has something to do about capital and researching strategies to help the company grow. Now, let's look at Jasper kasi siya na lang man yung walang ano. Sabi dito, Jasper will be in direct contact with Alice and Emmet. Why? Because Alice is the revenue Emit is the cost or the expenses. So revenue less expenses is equal to what? Revenue less expenses is equal to what? Profit. Yes. That's why si Jasper yung sa profit center. And maybe first time nyo itong ma-encounter, bottom line. Bottom line is actually the net income, the net profit, or the net loss. Bottom line ang tawag dyan because in an income statement, yan yung pinaka-last na line item na makikita mo. So, di ba yung income statement natin, we usually start with sales, less variable cost, fixed cost, and then yung sa pinaka-bottom, yung pinaka-last talaga na line item in an income statement is the profit, or other terms would be net profit, or kung lugi, net loss. That's the bottom line. So, yan. So, meron pa ba? Wala na. That's the end of Module 6. Ang bilis, no? Sabi ko sa inyo eh. So, tapos na tayo sa Module 6. Pero, ang Module 7, doon yung medyo mahirap. So, we're done now with responsibility accounting. Sabi ko nga, storytelling lang talaga yung Module 6. Kasi introduction ito ng responsibility accounting. Module 6, Module 7, and Module 8 is actually related. Itong Module 6, ito kumbaga yung introduction niya. And then we're gonna move on now with Module 7. I'm just gonna change my screen. Wait. Hi. Ano ba yan? Hi. Share. Where is it? Ano ba yun? Can you see it na, PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright. So, for Module 6, naka-Word siya. Ito lang din yung ipopost ko sa Teams. And yung Module 7, naka-PowerPoint siya. Yan lang din yung ipopost ko sa Teams. As you can see, wala nang mga activities. No more activities for the remaining modules. So, yung the only determining factor na lang of your grade for the final term is your exam. So, again, wala nang activities, but of course, I always cater questions kung meron man. Wala nang activities para, kasi ang dami pang hindi nakakapag-submit ng kanilang mga activities. Nakapag-exam pero hindi nakapag-submit. So, yeah. And for another thing also, why I decided na wag na lang mag-activities for the remaining modules. So, that's actually good kasi wala kang gagawin. Pero medyo ano rin because you can't really test kung may natutunan ba. But anyway,
Sorry, ma'am. Excuse ko, ma'am.
Yes.
Mag-interject ko. Pwede ba
Yes.
mga ayog, like, sample activities na lang for self-checking ba? Like, bahalag dili graded.
Yan, nandiyan mamaya.
Thanks, ma'am. Kay Murag.
Yes. Hindi kailangan talaga before para maintindihan naman talaga yung isang you really have to have activities. Activities of sorts, pero yun nga, hindi na siya graded. Wait lang ha, hindi ko pala na-delete yung answer key. I'll stop sharing lang. Stop sharing. Wait. Hindi ko kasi na-delete yung answers. Kasi medyo marami too. And this one. I'm gonna share again. Ay, wait. Bakit ganito? Can you see my screen na? Wala pa?
Loading pa, ma'am.
Loading, ma'am.
Ay, bakit iba? Iba ito. Mali. Ito dapat. Yan, can you see it na?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, let's proceed with Module 7. Now, because we're talking about responsibility centers, there should also be a way to know or to measure the performance of each center. For example, the company has different branches. May Davao branch, Iloilo branch, ganon. There should always be a way on how to know whether each branch, each segment of the company is performing at its best. So kasi yung performance ng Davao branch definitely not the same with the performance of the Iloilo branch. Magkaiba yon kasi nga magkaibang location, magkaiba yung sales for sure, magkakaiba yung cost, ganun. So we have to measure the performance of each segment or each branch para malaman natin kung kumikita pa ba yung branch or nalulugi na. So that managers can decide whether to continue the branch or to close the branch. Wait, hanggang na. Yan. So, sige, what would be our objectives for Module 7? We should measure managerial performance by performing different computations. So, like I said, marami ng computations dito. And understand the concepts of a balanced scorecard. Ng balanced scorecard, walang computation yan. So, yeah. Dito lang sa first part tayo magko-compute. Now, these are the financial performance measures. We have actually discussed some of them. Itong contribution margin, I hope this sounds familiar. Hindi nyo pa sana to kinalimutan kung ano yan. The segment margin and the operating income, which is actually our bottom line. Operating income or profit. Profit or pwede ring loss. Now, what is contribution margin? Sige nga, how do we compute contribution margin?
Sales, ma'am. Minus
Sales less.
Variable cost.
variable cost.
Very good. Ang galing ng students ko. I'm so
Mo
proud.
nang naminaw.
Yeah, huwag niyong kalimutan yan ha. Sales less variable cost is equal to contribution margin. So, contribution margin less fixed cost. Anong result?
Profit, ma'am.
Profit. Very good. Yun na yung bottom line natin. We can also call it operating income. So, kung titingnan nyo dito sa financial performance measures, alam nyo na to, contribution margin, and alam nyo na rin to, operating income. Unsa ni siya? So, ang mangyayari, yung normal income statement na dinidiscuss natin, mas i-extend pa natin siya. So, ito na. This is the pro forma statement on how to compute for all of those financial performance measures. So, as you can see, isa-isahin muna natin, may segment A, may segment B, pwedeng marami yan, pwedeng hanggang D, depende kung anong hinihingi ng problem or kung ano yung given sa problem. Dito, ito yung normal, may dalawang segments daw or branches. From now on, we're gonna call it segment, yung mga branches. So, segment A and segment B. Ito total mo. Meron kang total column dito. Now, first, sales. Sales of segment A, lagay mo dyan. Sales of segment B, lagay mo dyan. Total mo, sulat mo dyan. I'm teaching you the pro forma statement because we're gonna use it over and over again sa ating mga problems. Next, less variable cost. Alam niyo na to, variable cost. Variable cost ni segment A, sulat mo. Variable cost ni segment B, sulat mo. Total, sulat mo dyan. And then, meron ka ng contribution margin. Sales ni segment A, less variable cost ni segment A, contribution margin ni segment A. So on and so forth. Now, ito, may mga bago. Kasi di ba before, fixed cost lang yan. Tapos meron na tayong profit dito sa baba. Ngayon, yung fixed cost, further classify natin whether the fixed cost is traceable or common. Now, traceable fixed cost, mamaya ako na-explain kung ano yun ha, pero ito, sa performance statement natin, from the contribution margin, you will deduct traceable fixed cost para meron kang segment margin. Segment margin ito ni A, segment margin ito ni B. And then from the total segment margin, i-less mo yung common fixed cost, total common fixed cost with your income. Yung pwede lang natin ma-solve dito is yung contribution margin ni A and B, segment margin ni A and B, and operating income of the whole firm, of the whole company. We cannot compute for the operating income of segment A and segment B, not unless specifically stated sa problem na pwedeng ganun. Pero usually, this is a pro forma statement. Ito talaga yung nangyayari. Now, what is traceable fixed cost? From the word traceable, kapag ang fixed cost is traceable siya sa segment A, isulat mo siya dyan. Traceable siya kay segment B, isulat mo siya dyan. Now, traceable fixed cost is a fixed cost that is incurred because of the existence of the segment. If the segment had never existed, the fixed cost would not have been incurred. And if the segment were eliminated, the fixed cost would disappear. Ano daw? Yung traceable fixed cost, nandyan siya dahil nandito si segment A. Kumbaga, sa kanya yun, sa kanyang fixed cost yun. Kapag nawala si segment A from the company, halimbawa, shut down nila ang segment A, wala na rin yung traceable fixed cost niya. Kasi nga, inherent sa kanya or sa kanya lang yun na fixed cost. For example, salary, monthly salary, kasi we're talking about fixed cost, right? Monthly salary of segment A manager. Halimbawa, may 20,000 siya na monthly salary. Kapag, as long as nag-ooperate si segment A, definitely, babayaran mo yung manager because it's a fixed cost. It's a monthly salary of the manager. Pero, if for the next year, i-shut down na ang segment A, meaning hindi na mag-pursue itong segment A, ang matitira na lang sa company is ang segment B, yung monthly salary ni segment A manager, definitely hindi na makikita sa income statement ng company. Kasi nga, yung fixed cost na yun is traceable to that specific segment for that specific branch. So, ibibigay naman yun sa problem pero may konting analysis lang. Kasi usually, noon, kung magka-classify tayo, yung iniisip lang natin kung variable cost ba siya or fixed cost. Tapos, ika-classify din natin siya kung period or product. Wag nyo na kasi medyo mahirap yun. Pero dito, sa fixed cost, yung i-consider na lang natin is kung ang cost na yun is traceable ba for the specific segment. Now, bakit ang common fixed cost hindi dinideduct sa each segment? Because ang common fixed cost is a fixed cost that supports the operations of more than one segment, but it is not traceable in whole or in part to one segment. Even if a segment were entirely eliminated, there would be no change in a true common fixed cost. So, ang common fixed cost daw is actually a fixed cost of the whole company itself. Mawala man si segment A, yung fixed cost na ito is would still exist. It won't be affected kung meron mang segment na mawala because it's a common fixed cost. It's a cost that supports the operations of one segment and is not traceable. That is why yung segment margins dapat mong i-add para makuha mo yung total segment margin, doon mo ililess ang common fixed cost para makuha mo yung operating income. Kasi itong column na to, this actually relates to the operations of the whole company. Ito, branch lang, segment lang. Ito lang yung sales ng segment A, pero kung i-add mo yan, yan na yung whole sales ng company. So, I hope that's clear and mas klaro yan kapag lagyan natin ng lagyan ng figures. We can always we can always understand the theories kapag may mga figures nang involved. So, ito yung problem nung naka-yellow. Ito yung requirement. And ito yung actually yung table kanina, yung proforma statement. In-acronym ko lang yung iba. So, sales less variable cost, contribution margin, less traceable fixed cost, segment margin, less common fixed cost, operating income. So, what's the requirement? Again, like I told you, kapag may problem, always look at the requirement first. Ano ba yung hinihingi ng problem? So, gusto niyang makuha ang contribution margin and segment margin of R&P. So, dapat itong mga boxes dito, may mga figures yan mamaya. And the operating income of Oslo Company. So, ito yon. Itong specific box na ito. Dito sa total, dito sa pinakababa. Kasi makuha yung operating income ni Oslo mismo. So, ano bang nangyari dito kay Oslo? Oslo, meron siyang 2 products na binibenta, R and P. Sulat mo dyan, R, P. Tapos, lagay ka ng isang column for the total. The following data have been extracted relating to last month. So, yan. Pwede mo na yung i-forward mamaya. Pero, basahin muna natin to. An analysis has been made of the manufacturing overhead. Bakit? Ano bang nangyari sa MOH? Yan, MOH. Kapag ganyan ang MOH mo, tapos ito yung gusto mong makuha, yung variable fixed cost, and yung variable cost and fixed cost, magkakaproblema ka because manufacturing overhead can either be variable or fixed. That's why the need for this further analysis. Itong DM and DL, you won't have a problem anymore because ano ang sabi ko? Ang DM and DL will always be
Variable.
variable cost. Very good. DM and DL will always be variable cost. So, pwede mo na yan sila actually i-forward dito. Yung problema mo is yung MOH. Because hindi mo alam kung aling portion dyan ang fixed and variable. Selling and admin, pwede rin niyang maging fixed and variable. So, sige. Although the items listed above are traceable to the products, 36,000 of the overhead, so overhead assigned to R and 72,000 of that assigned to P is fixed. So magkano ba yung overhead ni R? Ang overhead ni R is 72,000. Sabi dito sa analysis, 36,000 of the 72,000 is fixed. Tapos, 72,000 of the 84,000 from P is fixed. The balance of the overhead is variable. So, arithmetic. Simple math, mamaya. Selling expenses, so dito sa manufacturing overhead, alam na natin na may portion na fixed and may portion na variable. Iko-compute na lang natin mamaya. How about selling expenses? Let's see if this is variable or fixed. Selling expenses consist entirely of commissions paid as a percentage of sales. So what do you think? Variable or fixed? It is a percentage of sales.
Variable.
Yes, variable. Kapag variable kasi, it changes. So kung magbabago ang sales, definitely magbabago ang selling expenses because percentage daw siya ng sales. Although hindi sinabi how many percent exactly, pero sinabi lang dyan, sige nga, isolve niya nga yung percentage, yung rate. You know how? Where's my calculator? Wait lang, I guess. Sige nga. Do you know how to compute for that? If the selling expenses is a percentage of sales, how many percent of the selling expenses of R, how many percent of sales? Yung selling expenses ni R. Yung product R lang muna. Can you compute for that? You have calculators with you. Hindi na siya mamata-mata. Kasi pwede rin yung sa problem, ang ibigay mismo yung percentage. Like, say 12%, selling expenses is 12% of sales. Dito, sinabi lang na selling expenses is a percentage of sales, but the question is, although hindi naman siya relevant mamaya, I just want to know if you can compute for this. If you were given this statement, ganyan, so do you know, can you compute the percentage of selling expenses from sales? Paano kaya yan i-compute? Kasi pwedeng itanong din yun sa problem.
Pila ka percent, ma'am?
Yeah, yun nga. Hindi binigay kung ilang percent. That's what I'm trying, that's what I want you to solve. Ilang percent? Kasi binigay yung amount. Binigay yung expense, yung selling expense, binigay din ng sales. So what is the percentage? How many percent of sales is your selling expenses? How do you compute for that? If you were given this amount, you were given this statement, how do you compute for the percentage? Selling expenses is blank percent of sales. Kasi baka magamit natin sa ibang problems. Class. Sige ha. If the selling expenses is a percentage of sales, tapos meron kang 14,400, tapos ang sales mo is 180,000, ang tanong, how many percent is 14,400 of 180,000? Ilang percentage ito? 14,400. Ilang percent yan ng 180,000? How do you compute for that? Okay, so actually to
8% siya, ma'am.
ano?
8% siya, ma'am.
Yes, 8%. How did you compute for that? Can you show us can you tell me the formula?
Ano lang, ma'am? Bali, ano lang na ako, ma'am. Bali,
E
i-analyze na ako sa iyang amount, ma'am. Tapos, like, kanang iyang 50% sa 180 is 90. Tapos yan, 10%. Tapos, nagbaba ako.
okay, nag-trial and error ka.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, pwede rin yun, but the easiest way would be to divide 14,400 divided by 180,000. Try nyo. Ilang percentage yan?
Yes, ma'am. 8%.
Yes, 8%. So that's how you compute. If you were given an amount, tapos sinabi na yung amount na yun is percentage of something else, yung gagawin mo, i-divide mo lang. 14,400 divided by 180,000 sales, so 8%. Kasi pwedeng ganito, class. Question mark yan. Question mark yan. Tapos sasabihin, selling expenses is 8% of sales. So magko-compute ka. 180,000 times 8%. Ganun pa rin naman yung result. But, I'm trying to to explain to you how you can easily compute for problems like this. Kapag yan yung sinabi, tapos tatanungin ilang percentage ba ang selling expenses of sales, so you simply divide 14,400 divided by 180,000. So I hope you can actually, ano kasi ito you can actually use this in, everyday problems. For example, sumweldo ka ng 30,000. Tapos, pagdating nung another payday, may natira ka na lang na, say, 700 pesos. So, kumbaga, yun yung nito natira. So, sabi mo, isi-save mo yun. Kasi ganun yung iba, di ba? Gastos muna bago ang savings. So, how many percent ng salary mo ang napunta sa savings? So, kung meron kang 700 pesos na natira, tapos 30,000 yung sweldo mo, that's how many percent? It's actually 2.3%. Masyadong mababa. So, maybe next time, kunin mo muna yung savings mo. Actually, parang may application lang kasi ito. Next time, maybe, ma-encounter nyo siya next time. So, that's how you compute for that. Alright? So, sige nga. Kasi ito sa R, we computed for R. How about P? How many percent of selling expenses is, tawag nito, selling expenses is how many percent of sales? Kay product P naman. Kasi I think magkaiba.
18%.
Ha?
Ay.
Have
1.8.
I don't think so.
Wait.
Did you compute for it? Dapat mo siyang kailangan mo siyang ituplok sa calculator. How about yung iba? Ilang percentage yan?
5%. 0.05, ma'am.
Yes. So, it's actually 5.55%. 5.56 kung tawag nito, i-compute mo. So, magkaiba, no? Magkaiba yung percentage ng sales to selling expenses ni R and P. But, like I said kanina, hindi naman siya relevant kasi hindi siya hinihingi sa problem. Ito lang naman yung hinihingi sa problem. Binigay na yung amounts. So, napalibog-libog lang ko. Napalibog-libog lang tamo. So, yeah, I hope na ma-apply nyo lang siya. Maybe someday in the workplace. Now, administrative expenses. So, okay na tayo kasi ito alam natin na variable. Direct labor, alam din natin na variable. Manufacturing overhead, meron na tayong breakdown. Ko-compute na lang natin mamaya kung magkano dyan yung variable. Selling expenses, variable siya because it's a percentage of sales. If a cost is based on something, definitely variable cost siya. Now, itong admin expenses, tingnan natin. Administrative expenses in the data above are fixed. So, fixed. No problem. Ang problema lang, dalawa kasi yung fixed. Saan natin siya ilalagay? Dito ba sa traceable or sa common? And cannot be traced to the products, but have been temporarily allocated to the products. So, ano daw? Administrative expenses daw fixed. Cannot be traced. Pero temporarily allocated lang. So, what do you think? Itong admin expense, traceable ba or common? From this statement. What do you think? Fixed daw, cannot be traced, temporarily allocated lang. What do you think? Admin
Common.
expenses. Yes, common. From the word cannot be traced. So, di ba, traceable, lalagay mo dito. Ito, for sure, untraceable. Pero, bakit siya na-separate? Bakit dito sa R nilagay siya? Di ba, ma'am, pag abot diri sa common, dili man ta magbutang dire. Kay diri lang nato siya ibutang. may explanation siya actually, temporarily lang allocated to the products. Maybe ito lang yung pag-prepare ng clerk. Ito, ganito lang yung pagka-prepare niya. Inallocate niya na. I don't know kung paano niya inallocate, kung ano yung criteria niya, bakit 12,000 yung binigay niya kay R and 18,000 yung binigay niya kay P. Pero because of this further analysis, further statement, we know that the cost, the administrative expenses are common fixed cost. So, mag-iiba kasi yan mamaya dito. So, sige, let us plot these amounts sa ating performance statement. How much is the sales of R? Sales ni R, magkano?
180,000, ma'am.
180. Sales ni P?
180,000 din po.
80 rin. So, magkano yung total?
360,000.
360,000. So, ma'am, dali lang kayo ang sales, ma'am. Kay naara dira, oh. So, walay problema. Dito mag-uumpisa yung problem natin. How much is the variable cost of R? Nag-analyze na tayo kanina. Alam na natin kung alin dyan yung fixed and variable. So, sige nga, how much is the variable cost of R? Give me an amount first.
Kailang mo 8,000 ma'am.
Magkano?
8 ma'am, 1,000.
108?
Yes ma'am.
No. More. Kulang. Kinulang lang.
122,400, ma'am.
Very good. It's 122,400. So, paano nakuha? DM and
I-add
DL.
po yung
Yes. Sige, sige.
tapos DM
Ano?
and DL, tapos
DM and
manufacturing
DL.
overhead
So,
na
18,000. Tapos, 54,000. Tapos, magkano
And then-
ang variable sa
Manufacturing.
MOH?
36 lang siya, ma'am, kay gi-minus siya sa 72,000.
Yes, very good. Tapos, may inad ka pa?
Yes po, selling expenses na 14,400.
Very good. So, I hope nakuha nung iba. 18,000, ito yon DM. Because I always say na DM and DL are always variable cost. 54,000, ito yon. Tapos, ma'am, bakit 36,000 lang MOH? Kasi sabi dito, 36,000 of the overhead assigned to R is fixed. So, babawasan mo. Kasi yung 36,000 ay fixed, yung remaining, yun yung variable. So, 72,000 less 36,000 is 36,000. Tapos, i-add mo yung selling expenses kasi sabi natin kanina, it's a variable cost because it's a percentage of sales, 14,400. So, i-add mo yan lahat, you get this one, 122,400. So, we can now compute for the contribution margin. How much ito? Contribution margin R.
57,600 ma'am.
57,600. So, unahin muna natin itong contribution margin bago tayo dumiretso sa baba. So, variable cost, how much? Give me an amount.
94,000.
94,000. Very good. Give me the formula.
Ano ma'am, DM, DL, tapos ang yung MOH kay 12,000 na lang.
Tapos,
Tapos, selling expenses ay 10,000 po.
so this is the formula. 24,000 yung DM, 48,000 na DL, 12,000 na lang because 72,000 is fixed. So, 84 minus 72 is 12. And itong 10,000 is from your selling expenses. So kung i-add mo yan lahat, you get 94,000. Magkano ang contribution? How much is the total variable cost? So maraming pwedeng itanong. Isang problem, pwedeng maraming itanong. Tatanong ka, how much is the sales of R? Yan, 180. Magkano yung sales ni Oslo? Kung yun ang itatanong, magkano? Sales ni Oslo. Anong sagot?
316,000, ma'am.
Yes, 360. Because actually, yung itong total na word, pwede mo yung palitan ng name ng company mismo. Kasi ito talaga yung kabuuan niya. Ito, parang hinati lang, yung breakdown lang per segment. So, magkano yung variable cost ni Oslo? Magkano yan?
216,400.
1,6,400. So, how much is ang contribution margin ni P?
Six
6.
thousand.
So, magkano ang contribution margin ni Oslo? Magkano ang contribution margin ni Oslo as a whole?
$143,600, ma'am.
Yes, 143,600. Now, class, I'm just wanna give you a tip. Kapag ganito nga, na parang naka-table yung mga formulas ninyo, you always do footing, ito, pag galing sa taas pababa, you foot 180 less, ganyan. 180 less 94, 360 less 216. And you should always do cross-footing too. So kung i-add mo to, 57,600 plus 86,000, dapat 143,600 pa rin yung result. Just to make sure lang na tama yung formula. That's what you do in a tabular formula. Kapag naka-table yan, you can do footing and you can do cross-footing. Just to make sure na tama yung answers. So, sige. Let's move on. Traceable fixed cost. Magkano ang traceable fixed cost ni R? Meron bang traceable fixed cost si R?
Uh, 36, ma'am, 1,000.
Yes, it's the 36,000. Saan mo nakuha yung 36,000?
Dito sa problem, ma'am, nakalagay all to the items accessible or traceable to per products. So, ang 36 daw of the overhead assigned are. So, dira ko lang siya gikuan, ma'am.
Yes, ito actually yung remaining, di ba nag-minus tayo kanina sa MOH natin. So, yung remaining doon, yung 36,000 na natira, hindi pa natin nalagay dito. So, dito mo siya ilalagay sa traceable fixed cost. Kasi sinabi na rin dyan na traceable and sinabi siya na fixed. So, ito yon. So, magkano ang kay P?
12,000, ma'am.
12,000 ba? 72. 12 yung inallocate mo as variable kanina. Pero this time, yung fixed na portion ang kukunin mo. So, it's 72,000. So, how much is the total traceable fixed cost?
108.
108. So, how much is the segment margin of R? Segment margin ni R, magkano?
21,600.
21,600. And kay P, magkano?
14,000, ma'am.
14,000. So, magkano ang total segment margin?
35,600.
35,600. Again, you do cross-footing and footing. So, kung ifo-foot mo siya, footing, 143,000 less 108,000. 35,600. Kapag ika-cross-foot mo siya, 21,600 plus 14,000, dapat 35,600 pa rin yung sagot. Just to make sure lang. So, meron na tayong answer sa requirements natin na contribution margin and segment margin. The question is, ito na lang, the last requirement, how much is Oslo's operating income? Magkano muna ang common fixed cost? Saan dyan?
Administrative expenses, ma'am.
Yes, how much?
12,000 sa R and then 18,000 sa P.
Isa-separate ko ba siya?
Dili.
Ha?
Mali. So, total na siya, ma'am, 30,000.
Yes, 30,000. So, magkano ang operating income natin?
5,600, ma'am.
5,600. So, we will not compute for the operating income of each segment, but we will compute for the operating income of the whole company as a whole so that we can follow our pro forma statement. Ang pro forma statement natin ganito, di ba? Hanggang segment margin lang yung per segment. Tapos, ililess mo yung total common fixed cost dito sa total segment margin para makuha mo yung operating income. So, nagets ba to? Questions regarding this before we head on to our next problem? Alam niyo na kung paano magkuha ng percentage kapag binigay yung mismong amounts na? Alam niyo na yon? You simply divide para makuha siya. Pwede mag-trial and error, pero kung kanang dali good ka, lisod. Lisod siya. Actually, po ko kabalo ni sa una. So, I hope that's clear. And let's move on to our next problem. For our next problem, we have question 1 and question 2. Ito usually yung ini-exam ninyo, di ba? Binibigyan ko kayo ng problem and then my questions and you have choices. So, parang ano na rin ito, simulation kung anong mangyayari sa exam. So, sige nga, I'll let you, klaro man di ba ang problem? I'll let you read that one first. Internalize nyo muna. And let's see kung meron kayong answer for question number 1 and question number 2. Sige, kayo muna. Ano na, may answer na? Hello, hello, hello.
Ay, wala pa po na.
Trying to solve it?
Yes po.
Okay, sige. Do you have answers na?
Question 1 lang, ma'am.
Sige, what's the letter?
One.
B.
B, 25.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, 25,000.
25,000. How about yung iba?
24,000, ma'am, for the common, ano.
Remember, ha? The question is
Ay,
asking
ma'am,
for the total
49 po pala.
expenses. Yes,
49,000 po pala, ma'am.
Okay. How about for question number 2? Meron nang may sagot?
Wala pa po.
Okay, sige. Sige, kaya niyo yan. Kasi nakuha niyo eh. Kaya niyo yan. Nakuha niyo yung Q1 eh. So, yeah, makukuha niyo yung Q2. Let's give it more time. May sagot na? Actually, ito yung mahirap eh. Are you stuck with the percentage? Class. Class, are you still there?
Hala, nanihapon ang maguro ni sila.
Wala, ma'am.
Mami, ma, wala
Nag-release
wala
na
ko
ang mga
answer.
spirit sa mong body ba?
Sabay tama ni hapon ha. Ayos ang mugkuan. Ay kunyog biyae diri. Ano
Of course.
man? Sige na, sirit na or gusto niyo pa i-try gyud? Kay naman gyud po
Ah,
something ano kung kanang ikaw jud naka-solve ba. Sige ano ha, 5 more minutes. 3 lang di ayo, 3 lang minutes. 3 minutes lang. Ang maka-answer makapanihapon. Meron na.
Letter B po.
Letter B. Other answers, meron? Sige. Okay, kasi medyo mahirap to ha. In fairness. So, answer for question number 1 is 49. Ano muna natin yan? Highlight. That's the answer. Red na lang para ko. Ba't ayaw? Yan. Answer for Q1 is a 49. So, let's see kung paano siya nakuha. Two sales areas, north and south. So, north and south. Mali ito ha, mali itong requirement. Nakopya yun siya from the previous problem. Ito lang talaga yung yung question. Q1 and Q2. In June, the contribution margin in the north was 50. So, lagay natin, 50. The segment margin in the south was 15. So, dito mo siya ilalagay. Careful with that. Kasi yung isa, contribution margin, yung binigay, so dito mo isusulat. Kay south, ang binigay is ang segment margin. So, dito mo isusulat. Mamaya na yung mga percentage. Traceable fixed expenses are 15. Traceable fixed, 15. So, ilalagay mo dito. And 10,000 kay South. So, same. Same na traceable fixed cost. So, dito ang kay South, 10,000. Tapos, during June, Miller Company reported total net operating income of 26. So, meron ka ng bottom line. Pero iba yung tanong. So, sige, let's see kung mura naman siya fill in the blanks. No? Actually, ganito siya, challenging na mga ganitong klaseng problem. Kasi murag pangitaon nimo ang pattern. So, mamaya na natin sagutan ha. From here, anong pwede pa nating ma-fill out? Kung may ganito kang data, ano pang pwede nating ma-fill out?
Sales, tapos segment.
Ano?
Ang sales sa
Sales, ma'am.
Sales ni kanino? Kaninong sales? North, ma'am. So, magkano ang sales ni North?
250.
Very good. Magkano ang sales ni South?
200,000
You are actually using the percentage na.
percentage. Yes, ma'am.
So, magkano ang sales ni South?
200,000.
No, that's wrong. It's not 200,000.
187.5, ma'am.
Yes, it's 187,500. So, how do you do that? For the country, for the sales ni North, paano siya nakuha? Paano nakuha? Sige nga, formula. Give me the formula so that others can, can follow.
20,000.
Ano? Paano nakuha ang sales ni South? Ni North? What's the formula?
50K, ma'am. Divide by 20%.
20%.
Yes, 50 divided by 20%. So, you have 250. Take note ha, yung sa mga hindi nakakuha. Para makuha yung sales ni North, dahil may binigay dito na yung 50,000 daw na contribution margin is actually 20% of sales. So, yung formula natin kanina, parang binaliktad lang. Imbes na yung dalawang amounts yung i-divide mo, dito, i-divide mo yung given, yung 50,000 sa 20%. So, you can get the sales. So, 50 divided by 0.20 is 250,000. Tapos, kung diskumpyado ka, pwede mo, kaya na kay 250,000, dili ka sure, mo jud ka ha, 20% jud ka ha ang 50,000 sa 250, then you can multiply again. 250,000 times 20% is 50,000. So, you have that. And very good, kasi marunong kayo. Very good. And ito, 187,500, same lang, pero this time kasi segment margin siya. So, yung critical dito is kung nalagay mo siya sa tamang box. Kasi pwedeng baka dito mo malagay. Like dito sa North na contribution margin. Pero dito, segment margin siya. So, dapat yung 15,000 dito mo siya ilalagay. So, sa pag-compute niyan, ganun pa rin, 15,000 divided by 0.08 or the 8%. So, you have, check natin ha, by 0.08. So, you have 187,500. So, kung may ganyan kang data, actually, pwede mo nang sagutan lahat. Pwede mo nang ma-fill out lahat ng blanks. So, sige. How much is the total sales? Total sales. How much?
Ma'am? 437.5.
37,500. So, ano pang pwede natin ma-compute? Ang dami pang ang dami pang blanks. Ano pa kayang pwede natin ma-compute?
Variable cost sa North.
Yes. How much?
200 po.
200,000. So, parang mga workback na lang to, no? Ano pa? Ano pang pwede?
Contribution margin sa South, ma'am.
Contribution margin ni South, magkano?
25,000.
5,000. So, i-add mo lang yung dalawa. Ano pa?
Variable cost po ng
6 hours.
Variable cost ni South, magkano?
162,500.
500. Ano pa?
Yung
Total niya, ma'am.
segment margin north.
Magkano?
35,000.
35. So, ano pa? Marami pa.
Ang total, ma'am. Total
Yes.
sa variable cost,
Magkano?
362,500.
Good. Tapos, ano pa?
Contribution margin na total, 75,000.
75.
Wait lang.
Tama yun. That's 75.
Yes, ma'am.
Ano pa?
Total ni Traceable fixed cost,
How much?
25,000.
5,000. Tapos, ano pa?
Segment margin, ma'am, 50,000.
And then, ano pa?
Ang common fixed cost, 24. 24.
Yes. So, as you can see, ito lang yung given. Pwede mong ma-fill out lahat. And definitely, pwedeng napakaraming questions for this. So, the first thing you have to do, fill out everything. No? I-fill out mo yan lahat bago ka mag-umpisang sumagot para dili ka malibog. So, make sure na tama yung table mo. And then, you can proceed with problems, sa questions. So, question number 1, the total fixed expenses, traceable and common, the total fixed expenses for Miller Company in June is actually 49. Kasi, hindi lang ito at hindi lang din yan. Yung dalawa, the total traceable and common. So, 25 plus 24. Mali pag 25 lang, mali pag 24 lang. Because yung tinatanong niya is yung total. Nakasabi din dyan na gusto niya yung traceable and common. So, the answer is 49. Tapos ito, dali na lang nito, the variable cost for the South in June, yan. 162,500. So, number 1 is A, number 2 is C. So, like I said, unahin nyo munang i-fill out yung buong table bago mo sagutan yung mga problems. Kasi, ang telling nyo class, ganitong mangyayari sa exam. Ganyan kaliit na problem, tapos napakaraming questions. Which is actually better kaysa yung individual problems tapos one problem, one question kasi magsusolve ka. Kapag ganito, kapag like halimbawa, ganito yung problem tapos you have 10 questions for this, pag nakuha mo tong table, wala na. Kuha na, 'di ba? So, it's better kapag ganyan yung mga problems. Alright, so yun lang yung examples natin for your financial performance measures. So, yung mangyayari sa exam, ganito lang din class. So, you review this again and again. You can actually open this naman kapag even when you're taking your exam. Kasi wala namang restrictions sa exam ninyo. You can actually open the exam and then balik ka close mo ulit, huwag mo munang i-submit. You cannot submit it naman pag may hindi ka nasagutan na answer. So, pwede mo siyang staggered yung yung pag-take ng exam. Kung feeling mo labad na imong ulo, ayaw sa ipadayon, ayaw sa i-submit. Pwede yun. As long as hindi pa siya deadline. But anyway, ino-open ko naman din yung exam kahit beyond the deadline na. So, yun. So, we're done now with our first objective. We did computations. Now, we will proceed with the balanced scorecard. Tapusin na lang natin ha. Ito na yung final topic. Mag-utama ni hapon. Kasi yung balanced scorecard ay walang computation. So, pwede na nailabain yung mga calculators. So, sige. Let's go to Balanced Scorecard. Balanced Scorecard is a goal congruence. Sige nga, if you can still remember from Module 6, what's goal congruence? When does goal congruence happen? Kailan nagkakaroon ng goal congruence? Kapag ano?
Ang firm na ay one goal.
Ano na? Again?
If na ay teamwork ang isa ka firm ma'am to achieve common goal.
Yes, very good. So, goal congruence, yun nga, may teamwork, nagtutulungan, di nagsasapawan. In contrast to, ano yung kanina, sub-optimization. So, ito yung positive na effect ng responsibility centers pag may goal congruence. So sa Balanced Scorecard, it is a goal congruence tool or a performance measurement system that strikes a balance between financial and operating performance measures, links performance to rewards, and gives explicit recognition, blah, blah, blah. It is a strategic management system that defines a strategic-based responsibility accounting system. So hindi ko na siya masyado i-explain kasi actually may video kayong papanoorin to better explain what a balanced scorecard is. So, a balanced scorecard may 4 na perspectives. Financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business process perspective, learning and growth perspective. So, as an overview lang, bigyan ko kayo ng overview. Ang financial perspective has something to do about this one. Itong ginagawa nating pagme-measure ng mga contribution margin, segment margin, this is actually a manifestation of the financial perspective of the Balanced Scorecard. Kasi nga, from the word financial. Now, customer, from the word customer, yung side ng customers natin, kumbaga, ng sales natin. Kasi 'di ba, we can only have sales, yun nga, from the customers. So, yung perspective nila kino-consider din sa Balanced Scorecard. Internal business process perspective, ito yung mga operations, production sa loob ng company. Sa loob ha, internal business process. Kasi wala tayong pakialam sa process ng ibang company. In a Balanced Scorecard, we only talk about our company. Hindi yung competition natin yung inaaralan dito, but yung mga operations, yung mga processes within the company. And then, learning and growth has something to do with the skills of your employees. So, sige, I'm gonna let you watch a video. Yun yung mag-e-explain sa inyo ng mas maganda regarding Balanced Scorecard. Now, after you watch the video, we're gonna answer some questions. After the video, answer agad tayo ng question. Let's see if naintindihan nyo yung concept ng Balanced Scorecard from watching the video. So, ito parang review lang. And then, we're done na. Okay? Parang 8 minutes lang naman tong video. First, check if you can hear the sound. If you can hear it. Play ko ha.
The Balanced Scorecard.
Narinig nyo?
Okay, ma'am. Loud
Yes,
and
ma'am.
clear.
Okay,
Okay lang.
very good. Sige, si Tito muna ang magtuturo sa inyo ha. Go, Tito.
Measuring a company's performance is important. If something doesn't get measured and reported, then probably nobody in the company will be paying much attention to it. Traditionally, companies have relied on financial indicators in order to measure their performance. This worked well when most of a company's assets were physical and could be reflected in a company balance sheet, such as machines, buildings, and cash. However, these days, a company's success no longer depends primarily on its physical assets, but more on the less tangible factors such as the loyalty of its customers, the efficiency of its work processes, or the skills of its employees. These important topics don't show up anywhere on the company's financial statements, so we cannot track their progress by just looking at financial performance indicators. That is why Professor Robert Kaplan of Harvard Business School and management consultant David Norton developed the Balanced Scorecard. They argued that, just as a pilot relies on more than one measure in order to fly a plane, managers need a broad set of performance indicators to lead a company towards success. In the Balanced Scorecard, the company vision and strategy are at the center and are surrounded by measures along 4 perspectives: financial, customer, internal business process, and learning and growth. Let's have a look and see how the Balanced Scorecard works. First, we draw the 4 dimensions. In the center, we write the vision or mission of the company. Say you run a coffee shop company and your goal is to become the best coffee shop in your city by serving delicious coffee and providing excellent service. Then we can start defining measures for each of the 4 dimensions. The financial measures reflect what the company's shareholders ultimately care about, including things like sales, gross margin, and net profit. However, your coffee shop can only have financial success if it has lots of happy and loyal customers. So in the customer dimension, you can measure how many each month and how satisfied they are with your coffee. In order to do well along the customer dimension, a company must do its work well. This is measured by the business process perspective and deals with the question, what must we be good at in order to succeed as a business? Performance indicators here can include the time taking to process an order, time needed to prepare a coffee, and the number of complaints or quality incidents. Finally, a company needs to keep on learning and improving. The question, can we continue to improve and create value, is captured in the learning and growth perspective, with measures that can include the skills acquired by company employees or the development of new items on the menu. In the end, all measures are related to each other. Only qualified baristas will be able to make good coffee and serve customers well. And only with good coffee and excellent service do customers come to your coffee shop, which in turn will lead to good financial results. So, to perform well financially in the future, companies need to do well on the customer, business process, and learning and growth dimensions today. This is why financial results are referred to as lagging indicators, since they tell us about past performance. Results related to the non-financial dimensions are called leading indicators. They give us information about future performance and need to be managed today in order to get good financial results tomorrow. The Balanced Scorecard can serve as a performance management system for the entire company. As an example, for the customer dimension of the Balanced Scorecard, say your coffee shop wants to maximize the number of customers and the level of customer satisfaction. It can then set specific targets for each of these goals and define a range of actions in order to reach these goals. Once this is done, the company can use the scorecard to track progress and take any corrective actions that may be needed. In this way, all the actions of a company are aligned with each other and contribute towards reaching its overall goal. That concludes the Balanced Scorecard. Check our other videos for more insights. Brought to you by Sim Institute.
All right, thank you, Tito, for that wonderful explanation. Sige. We will answer this one based on the video that you just watched. Were you able to
Letters.
ano? Yes, letters lang. Were you able to understand, Tito?
Yes, very good
Okay.
explanation by Tito.
Yeah, galing talaga ni Tito. Sige. Sige nga. What's the answer for this?
Letter C.
Correct. Good.
Environmental perspective.
This one.
Uh, letter B, ma'am.
Nauna gyud og answer ning ato ang businessman ba kay murag relate kayo siya.
Punta nga nila perme, walay solving.
Series lang no. Nagets ba ng iba ang balanced scorecard? The most appropriate to measure customer service is ito. Kasi ito anong perspective to? A. Anong perspective 'yan? We have 4 perspectives, financial, customer, business process, and learning and growth. Ito, anong perspective itong A?
Financial perspective, ma'am.
Yes, financial perspective. Itong C,
Sa business process, ma'am.
yes, business process. Itong D,
Sa customer perspective.
ito na yung answer natin eh. Itong D,
Ay, D.
Learning
D,
and
I meant D. Ano to?
The learning and
Learning and growth. Pero I think this is more on internal business process pa rin. Kasi it has something to do about the production. Yeah. Decrease in rework cost of defective units. Yes. Something to do with production pa rin. So this is actually internal business process perspective. Sige. Third question. Ay, wait lang ha. Na-highlight ko ba? Kasi for others kasi to see din. Yeah. Third question.
Ano, ma'am? Customer complaints.
Grabe.
Letter B.
Grabe yun, Clyde, no? Tinood niya siya, Clyde.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, ang tinatanong dito, not an appropriate measure of internal business process. Bakit? Anong perspective ba tong letter B? Which
Sa ano siya,
perspective?
ma'am? Sa customer perspective.
Yes, this is customer perspective. Ito yung sa mga internal business process. Itong tatlo. Delivery, cycle time, quality cost, and efficiency in production. Itong question number 4. Wait ha. Na-highlight ko. Ayun, na-highlight. Yan.
Ano, ma'am? Operating income.
Yeah, operating income. Gross, bumabawi si Clyde pagpasensyahan niya na. Yan, operating income. Financial performance. Ito yung ginagawa natin kanina. No? Computing for the operating income. Itong B, ano kaya ito?
Sa CS side, ya po na, ma'am. Customer perspective.
Yes. Customer. B, C, customer pa rin. D, customer pa rin. Nanay yun, no? Nanay customer mismo sa choices, ma'am. So, yeah. So, last question. Before we, eat our dinner.
Ano, ma'am? Di medyo libog na siya kung A or D. I guess all, ma'am. Applicable siya.
No.
learning and growth, ma'am. Letter D.
Yes, it's learning and growth. So, what gives, kumbaga, ano yung parang, bakit siya sa learning and growth? From this word,
Increasing information systems.
yes, from the word increasing, kasi, di ba, learning and growth has something to do about, developing your processes. So,
Innovation, ma'am.
dito, i-increase mo daw kasi yung information system capability ninyo. So, it has something to do with growth. So, learning and growth.
Yes.
So, yun lang, class. Kung sa exam ito, ganyan lang din. Dali lang. Kabawi ra mo. So, dito naman, yun lang din yun. Basta you have to complete the table first. So, better na pag mag-e-exam na, syempre, may scratch paper ka talaga. Lots of scratch papers. Para makakuan ka. Makahinaya kag solve. Alright? Before you
Module,
answer
ma'am.
the...
Daghan jud
Yes. Kinaghan jud kaayog is-solve. Actually, yun ako ka ng sahay man good nang gadali-dali ta mo ano mo dako ato ang sinulatan. Dali ra kay mahurot ang papel.
Sa
Buti-
dihang pag-check sa imuhang kuan ma'am, gamay ra day ka ang formula, mo apit tinang taas ha.
Yeah. So, yun nga. Lots of scratch papers pag magte-take ng exam. So, yun lang, class. We're done with Module 6 and Module 7. Next meeting will be on November 19, Thursday, same time, 5 to 9 p.m. Alright? I see you next time,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's all. Take your
Thank you,
dinner
Thank you,
now.
ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Ay, wait! Ay, wait lang.
Only ko tonight, no?
Ha?
Only boy day
Yes,
ko
you're
tonight.
the only
Only
thorn
thorn among the roses.
roses. Kano.
Alright, bye ma'am. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.